I'm Paul Grundy, the COO of Goodness. We're here at 40 Leadenhall. We've just done our first ESG Lunch Learn. Hopefully one of many events we're going to be doing over the next 6 to 12 months. Today's very topical, and it's also the day our ESG report's going out. Massive thanks to Laura and the team at 40 Leadenhall for hosting us and let us be here. And also a big thanks to all those that attended. We thought it was really good, really nice, chilled, relaxed environment. Everyone seemed to be very engaged, and it was brilliant. Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for making your way here today. Appreciate it's wet and a bit groggy out there, so thanks for coming. Thank you also to 40 Leadenhall, Laura and the gang for putting us up in this wonderful little space. That's Laura over there, just waving away. Thank you very much. The purpose today is it is a nice, relaxed, almost semi-intimate lunch and learn about sustainability and the circular economy, and just opportunities to meet some of our suppliers and partners, ask a few questions, but all again on the hot topics of ESG and sustainability. So a little bit about Goodness first, just to quickly plug us and who we are and what we do. So we're pretty much everything your workplace needs from a food and beverage perspective, simply delivered. So we provide milk, fruit, snacks, tea, coffee, beer, wine. Although we sell products, we're also very much food services and service-based as a business. So we kind of operate or provide our services around 3 core pillars. So we have quality, which is quality of the products we serve and the service itself. Sustainability. So we put sustainability into all the decisions we make from a purchasing perspective, all the way through to vehicles, limiting how fast our vehicles can go, route plotting and planning. And then one of our big ones is compliance. So compliance from a milk perspective. So when we bring milk into buildings, it's a legislated product. We have one of the panel here, Cotswolds Dairy. They can talk more about that later as well. But we're here to make sure that our customers, or those assuming in the room here, operate safely and, again, legally as per food safety law. And then the final part, which is especially good for front of house, is the convenience side of our business. So everything we do is based on our customer obsession. So ensuring that when someone comes into the office in the morning, milk's in the fridge, there's coffee beans in the coffee grinder or coffee machine, there's fresh fruit and other snacks and nibbles around. So yeah, as a business, we're all things food and beverage, but we're very, very much service led. A little bit about here, what we do for 40 Leadenhall. So we're all of our deliveries are made out of hours, which also helps us with our sustainability. But when we come in here, we're in and out of the building before 11 o'clock at night. Otherwise, we get in trouble as well. But our service level agreement is that, so that every day when anyone that works or operates in this building on the floors we look after, when you come in here, everything's stocked and ready to go. As part of this, again, it reduces food miles, lowers congestion, so we're not sat in traffic throughout the day. So less emissions, and again, it provides enhanced safety in what we do. So again, sustainability, circular economy. One of the things I'm going to get across quite a bit today, I'm rabbiting on about, is small actions. So there's a view of sometimes the sustainability or ESG is it a lot of hard work? We've got a lot to do. Is it worth it? And I think sometimes people think about big moving ideas or large ideas to try and change things, but it's not the case. So sustainability is not driven by one single initiative. It's hundreds and hundreds of small ones. So from a Goodness perspective of how we operate, and using this example here, this is a circular economy of cardboard. So when we're packing fruit boxes or we're stocking fridges within buildings, there's cardboard waste is produced as part of this process. We can't avoid it. That packaging goes into our vans, goes into buildings. All of our wonderful customers get to eat and consume those products or drink the products. Once we then go in the next day to the buildings we look after, we then collect all of that cardboard waste. That then goes back to our distribution centre and it's baled. And the positives from this, it saves it going into waste. But the small action and the meaningful impact is that last year we baled 44 tonnes of cardboard waste, and that went off to be recycled to a paper mill and get put back into the circulation for reuse. And for visuals to get an idea, it's equivalent with 3.5 London buses. Although that was last year, we've grown as a business and we're now doing around about 12 tonnes every 6 weeks. But again, it demonstrates that those small bits, those small steps we can make have a big impact. another good example of this as well. So this is a small switch for a meaningful impact. So this is just by switching one product out. So within the food services, you have Oatly and Momar. He'll be here from Momar today as well. Typically, there's a 4-to-1 ratio of Oatly being purchased over Momar. It's a popular drink, but the problem we had from this as a sustainable business is that the 31% higher emissions per litre of Oatly. So with this, by switching all of our customers over from, doorbell going, by switching all of our customers to Momar, which also British Oats as well, and then we removed 20.8 tonnes of CO2 in 2025. So again, it's a small switch just from one product to another, but because of the sheer scale, then it has such a massive impact. So it's a big thing to consider. So with goodnus how we operate, as well as being in 40 Leadenhall here, we're in 22 Bishopsgate, 8 Bishopsgate, 1 Leadenhall. There's a whole list of them on here. By collaborating with neighbours and other buildings and partners around the area, you can replicate those small changes, and all of a sudden they start to get momentum and have a much, much, much bigger impact, a far more meaningful one. Now, that was enough, nice, short and sweet from me. We're going to hand you over to the panel in a second, but before I do, again, it's something I'd always like to bring out, that it's the small impacts of the small things that can make a difference. So if you think that you're too small to make an impact or make a difference, try spending a night in a room with a mosquito. It's a Dalai Lama's old quote, but it resonates and it's really, really true. Those small things can make a big, big impact. So this is Vanessa Sturman. She's an award-winning speaker and health and nutrition coach, and she's been working with goodnus for around about a month now. I'll let you talk a little bit more about yourself. One of the things from a nutrition perspective that Vanessa is going to be helping Chris and I on is over the next 12 months, she's going to get us beach ready for next year. It's a big task. Come on in.
Thank you. You are beach body ready, by the way, so you're totally fine to head off to the beach.
Thank you very much.
Just as you are. So I'm Vanessa Sturman. I'm an award-winning speaker and health and nutrition coach, and I help people improve their performance and resilience and focus, but with real-world habits that are practical, fit in with your travel, do not involve always being in the kitchen. And I regularly speak on BBC Radio and other media outlets like Sky News. And this is very up my street, what you said about small, consistent things that make a real difference. So a study came out recently that said just 5 minutes extra brisk walking a day could reduce the risk of death from lifestyle diseases by about 10% for the general population. Now, that is something you have to do every day or most days. You can't just walk 5 minutes and say, that's it. But that could involve getting off a lift earlier or not taking the lift if you're only a few floors away, or a short walk, or getting off the bus earlier. So very small, big impact. And what we're doing with the panel today is we're exploring how sustainability actually gets done in the real world, workplaces, supply chains, how it affects you, and some of the personal choices that you can make in the workplace and at home. So we want organizations to perform better, but we want that to impact the environment well. We want it to impact our health, our communities, and they're actually all interlinked. It's not just a one-way street at all, which we're going to be talking about. So on the panel, I've got, second along, I've got Planet Mark. I've got James Shorey from there. And Planet Mark is a carbon reduction certification organization, and you help businesses measure their emissions, reduce carbon, and progress towards net zero. And Planet Mark is actually, you lead specifically on the partnership with the UNFCCC. And basically that's the United Nations body behind COP, climate summits, which I think everyone here will know about. Chris, so you're from goodnus. So we don't need an introduction on goodnus. You either worked with them or heard all about them. But Chris himself is a chartered accountant with over 20 years experience in risk, governance and senior finance roles. You've worked with Deloitte in one of the early teams developing assurance over sustainability reporting in the late 2000s. And you've also worked in assurance roles in various FTSE 10 companies as well.
Didn't write my bio either.
Okay. Was it wrong?
No, it was right, but it's never cold enough, do I?
And we have as well Harry George from Send Coffee, just here. And Send Coffee is a social enterprise running award-winning London coffee shops. There is one just around the corner, and we all met there and had some lovely coffee. And these coffee shops support young adults with special educational needs and disabilities, which is what Send stands for, and helping them move to a more independent adult life with training and work experience. And Harry, you've built multiple ventures helping disadvantaged groups, and you're going to talk a bit about some of those partnerships between large organisations and those social enterprises. And then we also have Cameron Treadgett from Cotswolds Dairy. And Cotswolds Dairy is a family-owned dairy processor and a distributor based in Gloucestershire. They supply over 100 million litres of milk annually across England and Wales. And you're also the UK's largest producer of milk in reusable glass bottles. Yeah. Yes, and we're going to be talking a bit about that as well and some of the amazing impacts that has. And you're the Health, Safety and Environmental Officer, leading on environmental reporting, helping to reduce emissions and waste across businesses. And you'll be giving us some tips on how other businesses can do that as well. So first of all, I want to talk about how you see sustainability and environmental social governance, because it means something different to everyone on a business level and also on a personal level. So in 1 minute, can you say what it means to you, but also why companies in 40 Leadenhall should be considering this and should care about sustainability?
Yep. Okay. So I think for us, as Paul alluded to, it really is a prerequisite in everything that we do. So it's one of our defining pillars. For those that know us well, you know that we don't cut corners making any decisions without considering the environment. And I think we're all privileged to work in buildings like this. The thing we can do to make the most difference, I think, or the biggest impact, is to just be human and realise that, and particularly when you are the ones that are responsible for providing the food and beverage, I think there's this perception that you can never run out of products. And what that leads to is overstocking, lots and lots of wastage. And really, the role that we play and the business model that we've developed is to help you to be comfortable knowing that you're never going to run out of deliveries. You know, we're always round the corner, we're in this building, we're next door. So we can help you just to avoid overstocking would be what I say.
Avoiding over-consumption, but being comfortable as humans?
Not so much over-consumption, but just over-ordering. So Vilka's a good example. It has shelf life, we know. You don't need to fill your coffee machines up to the brim on Fridays because people like working from home on Fridays, they're not going to use them. And if you don't communicate with cleaners properly or housekeeping teams, then the likely chances that they'll come in and pour the milk away over the weekend before you return to the office. So just making those little small decisions and small choices, as Paul said, to make a big difference overall.
And that's that integrated approach within buildings where it's making sure it's not just a champion that knows about this, it's the different people who have different roles and responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
For us, I think sustainability and ESG, when you start working with a business, can really tell you a lot about who they are and what they care about. A lot of the time, we just look at like the bottom line, profit. Are they profitable? Are they going to give me a good price? But actually, if you start to unpeel and actually ask about like what social impact, or how much social impact you generate, like what's your carbon footprint, what are your governance structures, it can actually tell you a lot about when that business actually cares about their staff and who they work with and cares about their impact on the environment. And I think that's becoming more and more important. And obviously we need to make sure the businesses you work with are profitable, going to give you a good price, going to give you a good quality service. But if they're also just don't give a shit about the environment or the people that work with it, and that tells you a lot about the future they are. So from my perspective, like making sure that everyone in your community cares about this stuff, it's the most important thing.
Fantastic. And Harry?
Yeah, I think the world changed in our lifetimes. I think like some of us think back to when I was younger enough to just get coffee cups with a paper cup and off. Then if I should have bought my keep cup, all of the pressures to do everything ESG. I think that as the world has changed, it's become not just a compliance thing to company, but as a priority for the people within them. Companies are just a group of people together doing something you can't do alone. And the best people now goes where those ESG gold figures. And I think that's why it's so big sports minded.
Fantastic. Cameron?
Well, for us, it's all about building a sort of a community. We sort of take environmental matters sort of seriously from both the customer point of view, but also from our suppliers, so our farmers, we work closely with them, all about sort of integration down within the business, and ultimately it is that sense of community that we want to bring everyone together and sort of try and make us stand fast as a family-run business, so you will get your milk from a more sort of environmentally sustainable business.
Oh, fantastic. And what I'm also hearing is that this has multiple benefits. I'm going to be talking about this as well a bit more with Harry about certain partnerships that might look one way to begin with, but actually benefit everyone as well. And we should be benefiting people right through the organisation as well as the communities that we're working with. Cost and expense, because sometimes when we hear we've got to become more sustainable, some people think, great, you're going to make me spend money. And sometimes, yes, that is the case. But I want to hear from all of you about examples of where you can spend money, but there is a significant return on investment. And if you've got examples and stories, that would be great, as well as, and/or, some of the lowest cost things that can be done that will help the business and the environment. Who wants to? I think this is an everyone question. So, who wants to kick off? I'm going to go on then. Yeah, you go. You're opening your mouth, so you're going.
From our perspective, every single penny we spend on ESG and sustainability will be paid back in hands, if not others. So, I think a lot of the businesses that I might work with will recertify every single carbon footprint they make, every single project they start, every solar panel they put in, forms the basis of them being able to speak about how they are having a lesser impact on the environment, which actually goes and helps them win new business, actually forge new partnerships, make sure that they're working with like-minded businesses as well. I think one of the biggest success stories we've had at Planet Market is we certified Allwin, who are a business who actually now, because of all their sustainability work they did, and because they promised to be the first net zero business of their kind, won the national lottery tender. So they now run the national lottery, and they will do for the next 10 years. And part of that successful bid was they made that promise to be the first net zero lottery in the world. So fantastic. Just one example of putting the effort and you make those commitments and demonstrate you're going to stick to them, you can benefit your business. That's it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, add and build on that. A while back now, I helped a train company with their supply chain, and they had loads of their product going missing up and down the country, and they just couldn't quite work out where it was going. And the first time they actually started tracking everything going in and actually going out, was when they started doing their ESG reporting, which is that kind of crazy. I feel like a business fundamental is to know what goes in, what goes out. A lot of organizations actually don't do that very effectively, and ESG, from a compliance perspective, especially now, is possibly the best excuse to actually do a rigorous process on that. And I think that's why a lot of companies are having massive commercial benefits, as you said, from making that change. And I think that's really, really powerful.
Fantastic. Any other examples to add?
I think from our side, so it's, again, we exist to make offices a better place to work. Mm-hmm. So it's all about employee engagement, retention. It's hard to get good people to keep them nowadays. And by switching to like-minded suppliers that don't cost anymore, you get lots and lots of benefits that come with that as well. So, and our suppliers are always willing to help. We've got lots of them here today. If we were working with Coca-Cola and Heineken, give me a big coffee roast to Harry, top of your head, ECC. But they wouldn't care enough, I guess. Yeah. Despite this being a lovely arena to but the benefits are endless. They really are. So we've got, for example, the World Cup. I'm a little bit rusty today. I was up watching England last night. Shouldn't have bothered, but I did. We're doing hydration pop-ups after the England fixtures with some of our key customers, where we've got hydration drinks, we've got focus drinks coming along and just putting a smile on people's faces, handing out drinks free of charge for a day, just to say thank you. So it's at no cost to businesses. And if you are drinking Coca-Cola in your offices rather than these, then you're just not going to get those benefits. Yeah. We have margarita bars, try and sign pop-up bars with live music, all things that are done by our suppliers just to say thank you for giving them a vehicle to be in buildings like this. And so it just demonstrates that if you work with like-minded people, then I think the benefits, you might not always be able to report them or see a bottom line increase, but you'll certainly create a greater workplace and happier workplace.
And how people show up in workplaces and what they expect from workplaces is very different to 20 years ago. And that, again, retention and attracting new talent costs a lot of money. So if you can reduce some of those costs as well by making people want to stay or bringing people naturally into the organization, that's always very helpful as well.
Absolutely.
I think for us as well, it's cost of business. For us, we have sort of our factory staff, but then also our farmers combined to develop this sort of environmental sustainability and culture. It will just in turn improve general efficiencies and just encouraging staff and farmers to just operate in a more efficient manner and just work closely with them. You'll find very quickly without really spending much money, you will see just huge benefits, especially with us to efficiency.
Fantastic. We are going to go more into some of those day-to-day decisions and integration a bit later. But I want to pick up on what you said, Harry, about when you start measuring things, you can actually start seeing some savings. So I want to move on to some of that. And Scope 3 emissions, everyone has heard of that here, but I just want to get a quick definition on Scope 3 emissions. I'm going to be doing that from James just to make sure we know exactly what we're talking about. But I'm also going to ask you, what should businesses be measuring and reporting on? And then we will go into how we can reduce some of these Scope 3 emissions.
Yeah, of course. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, Scope 1, Scope 3, just to reiterate what it was all about. And Scope 1 is very much the direct sources of carbon, so the hydrocarbon that you're burning, and usually that's a boiler in a building or petrol that goes into a Humvee vehicle, that kind of stuff. Scope 2 is very similar, but it's more about electricity that you purchase. It might be being burned offsite at a fired plant somewhere that you're buying that energy, which is going into the energy of the buildings. What people don't often realize is that usually is around 2 to 5% of your total emissions, usually over 90% of your emissions is Scope 3. And Scope 3 is basically everything that you spend money on. So think about your supply chain, everything inside the office, the coffee, the milk, everything within that goodness, but else goodness works. Think about your waste contractors, how your staff get to work, how your staff travels to various meetings, your finances, your assets, everything, which is why we can see that from usually 9+% of the company emissions. And what we try and say is Scope 1 and 2, there are challenges in reducing those, but usually there's a known challenge, and the challenge is getting never through proper investment and proper financing. Scope 3 really comes down to influencing the businesses in the community. It's really about understanding where they are, understanding who you're working with, and what challenges will they face, and helping them collectively overcome the challenges with them, which is tough. Actually, from my perspective, you've really got to go to where they are and have one-to-one conversations. It's great to have things like get to speak to the suppliers, but have to sit down in the room and really understand each of those suppliers and how you can help them decarbonize themselves. You won't be able to in turn decarbonize yours. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So what should businesses be measuring and reporting? Not every single thing, because I'm sure that's pages and pages, but some of the top things, and also just back to Harry's point, some of the things that where actually we do get some surprising results where once it's written down as a number, businesses go, I had no idea I could change that, to how much impact that could have.
Yeah, our advice is always the very first thing you should do with regards to creating a sustainable strategy is doing your full Scope 1, 2, and 3. There's some great affordable tools out there in order to do that. You can do a free calculator and then work your way to from a validated carbon footprint. So it's just getting that Scope 1, 2, 3 metric and identifying those hotspots, and then allowing you to identify actually waste, or maybe my paper waste is such a small amount of my carbon footprint, whereas travel is super high, and maybe that's where it's focused. So unless you have that insight and that data, you won't be able to work on the areas that are highest emitting.
Fantastic. And what are some of the practical steps organisations can take to reduce these Scope 3 emissions? And I think, Cameron, you might have some insight here as well. Was there anything you wanted to add at this point?
Well, one of the categories that's dealt with the Scope 3 is business wasting. Right? So we offer reusable glass bottles, and by sort of delivering them, we collect them, return them, wash them, and they can be reused. They can be reused at least 20 times, so sometimes more, depending on the customer. And just by making a simple switch to reusable glass bottles, or just completely eliminate any single plastic usage, that can just reduce your Scope 3 emissions. So there are sort of little changes that you can make that can really have a massive impact. And it's not just on a carbon emission perspective, it's also for waste perspective. By removing waste on site, so you can collect it and you have to deal with energy usage.
And this process is managed by yourselves and Goodness. Do you want to say a little bit about what happens in the background for this?
So I think for us, we're obviously a distributor, and we do rely on all of our suppliers effectively. So we vet them thoroughly. We have a good, better, greener policy, which effectively makes it easy for our customers to understand whether they're doing the right thing or not, or using the right, offering the right products in their offices. It's a very simple 10-point scale that we use, that we make sure that all of our suppliers, before we onboard them, have given us the answers. It covers areas such as carbon footprint, net zero, whether social value is provided, the use of recyclable or reusable packaging, and all of the stuff you'd expect. But it pulls it into a nice, easy number that you can then go to your customers and say, go to your employees and say, we're doing the right thing. You tend to find that offices and facilities managers, they're managing the trade-off between giving people exactly what they want, so a well-known brand, and actually doing the right thing for the environment. So we just make it nice and linear so it's easy to understand. And then we track as we go as well. So for Leadenhall, for example, in 2025, 59% of the products that we provided in were better on the scale, with only 25% being greener. So better is not quite as good as greener, but better than good. Should explain that at the start. So just demonstrates what we're doing, what we've achieved, but also how far we've still got to go.
Yeah.
And we do it, as I say, for the entire supply chain, for all of the buildings and businesses that we manage, so they know where they're at.
Yeah. And it's a work in progress. There's still more and more to keep going with, and you've taken it many, many steps, and it's wonderful to see it's going to keep going further than that. So, and James, did you want to add anything else here about tips to reduce Scope 3 emissions? Is it more than you can say, probably?
I would just reiterate to be targeted. It's such a massive, there's 15 categories of Scope 3. All of them are as important as each other, but just being very targeted and try and address one at a time, or a couple at a time. Because if you try and do it all at once, you're going to fall flat on your face. So just do the measurement, understand the hotspots, target the easiest win areas first, and then have a long-term plan with the rest of them.
Yeah,
I think just to add to that as well, it's monitoring as you go. So I think that's what Plandemark really taught us, that once you've got your base year, you understand where you're leaking effectively and what you need to tighten. And if it's a once a year exercise, then you're never going to be as good or as proactive as you can be. Yeah. So really just tracking as you go. It shouldn't be a big, difficult problem to get your reporting done year in. So we turned ours around this year within a month. You should know your numbers and be working to improve them every day rather than it being an annual cycle.
This takes me very nicely into the next question, which was, we didn't plan that around day-to-day decisions. But I also want to ask everyone here, have you ever felt that something was done in terms of sustainability or a sustainability initiative within any organization you've worked in that was a tick box, just kind of for show, just to get it out the way, and it was almost like a 1 day, 1 week, done, never spoken about again? Has anyone ever experienced that? I've experienced it or seen it. And obviously it's not what we want to be doing. But I want to talk about how can we make sure that's not happening, and the benefits of that as well. How can we engage employees, and also the cleaners who are helping with the bottles, all of those people in those day-to-day decisions to make sure that we are actually getting the results that we want.
Small realistic steps. Sorry, I'll jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, as you say, it's engagement, communication, and dissemination. People need to know what you're doing and why it's making a difference.
Yeah.
So again, we've got Cotswolds Dairy here. I know that we track the percentage of our bottles that we do return and reuse. And like some of your customers, we're not leaving them outside on household doorsteps. We're delivering them into office fridges. There's not an excuse really for losing a single bottle. But I can't remember the last time that we had an office that smashed a bottle. So other than putting it in the general recycling, and not reusing it, then there is an excuse for not getting on. So just making sure that you're aware of, and it's not just a housekeeping scene, it's everyone that's in the office as well. So we have lots of stats. We tell people how many plastic bottles they've avoided using, and just to demonstrate that they are making a difference.
And I suppose it's that monitoring side that maybe means a bit more upfront work to begin with in terms of integrating it into a business. But then once that's done and it's part of the culture, then it flows more easily within the day.
The good thing about us is that they're tangible products. You see them, you feel them, you eat them, and you can consume them. So it really is easy to understand what you're doing and how you can make a difference. And I guess, again, for our customers, this is a good way just to demonstrate that you do care about the environment, that you're doing the right things, you're understanding your impact and making a difference, because it's effectively a shop window, the F&B that you provide.
Yeah, absolutely. And Harry, anything from you in terms of employee engagement and what can be done?
I think you said the word culture there, which is the key. I think the classic example of this is the disabled food confident, right? But disabled is often a tick box to your requirement.
And we often, the science and root sacred charity, quite people we use that new, and it's just stories. It's got a mushroom there. It's all for problems. They're massive problems. That's the really example that if you don't have the cultural buy-in on these decisions, no plan survives contractors yet. Once you let people own devices, they're really such because they don't understand the intent behind the changes, wherever you sit. And I think that's really what, when you said the word culture, I think it's key to kind of get across, because it is, that kind of buy-in happens through intent. That happens through a lot of positive steps that requires intent behind it.
And I suppose it's making sure it comes from multiple levels of the organisation. If you've got, some champions, which can be great, but if it's not coming from the top, the people who actually need to do things, it's not going to work. What do you think?
It's intergenerationality behind that as well. Is that there might be a management team and they make a great decision, and then they're far removed from the next churn. The new wave of people comes in. By the time again of companies we work with, and also as a disabled charity, one, we come into these places with lots of people. The management have made an intentional decision to make it accessible or speak sign language or even stock our products. And then there'll be a whole new team of people who haven't been briefed on any of that. And that's really challenging, because it should be part of the onboarding process, especially with ESG stuff, especially regulations. I think that it starts from day one in each staff. I think that part of the management onus is to make an intentional design so that people are learning about it as they joined.
And something we're looking at for the future as well with goodnus is, how people can be using the products to improve their nutrition, because it's not always obvious what people need to eat, or they don't know how to eat it or make it taste nice or what to have it with. But actually having some engagement around that can help people perform better as well, whether that's in the workplace or the home.
Yeah, not a area of expertise for me. This time next year will be different. No, again, for this field as an example, so 6% of our sales in this field at the moment are Coca-Cola products. If I can staggering as a stat. We've got a good, healthy range of drinks that are full of nutrition benefits, electrolytes, the great kombucha range, but it's just getting word out there and spreading it and just changing those habits, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not experts at the moment, but it's going to be a big push for us next year.
Yeah.
So.
Brilliant. And I love kombucha as well. And you don't have to give up the Coke. This isn't about not having some of those less healthy foods. It's more about the balance that they play and giving people those options and making sure they know about them as well. So I want to move on to that social enterprise is benefiting because of what this business did. And this is where Harry is an absolute expert. And I want you to talk about that two-way street, what the mutual benefits are, and some examples that you've had from organisations.
So obviously, just to those not familiar with what we do, we also sell coffee, and we are a charity. So the money that we raise for selling that coffee goes into our charity project, but we'll train young adults with various disabilities to be baristas and so on. And it's quite a long process. We work with them 2 years. And when we're doing that, we actually end up working with people who we build a lot of life skills in, but we can actually build employees over a 2-year training period that will start with all of the onboarding in place. So if you have positive experiences of businesses that stop off coffee, they say, it's really hard to hire cleaners. And we can say, okay, we can help you hire cleaners. We can train up this young man who wants the job in the city. We can train him up to be a cleaner. We can reach him on everything about his company. So we all use the best start through that process, which is a kind of nice little positive out of it. But I think what we've realized as an organization is that we're very good at our charity side of things. There's pretty Ofsted outstanding rating, 5,000 different. But we're also very good at coffee, and we partner with organizations that are very good at logistics, which is good. So I think that we're a small little local charity, and we're not best at that, and they are. And I think that that's a good example of where the group of businesses working together can all be best at their various things. And I'm looking at Mono because I think they do the best I don't know as well. But I think that's the real advantage, is to actually find people who are specialists in their areas. It's really hard to when done correctly.
So it's just being part of that ecosystem and seeing all these different types of businesses or social enterprise and charities all helping each other and actually bringing each other forward. And I like that example of reducing training time as well in an organisation, because again, that costs money. It takes more time from someone else. So I think that's really great. Was there did you want to add anything to that on the social impact side? I know, Cameron, you have some people you employ as well.
So we employ prisoners. This is part of a sort of rehabilitation scheme. So we get them in as part of it, 30% of their wages are sent to a victims charity, and the whole plan is to, as I said, rehabilitate them to get them back up to be getting back into society. And if it all goes well and more successful, they're offered full-time employment at the end of it, so they don't sort of just recognize they don't know what to do once they've got out there, and it significantly reduces the rate of other offences. So that's something that we work on and do.
That's fantastic. I want to move on to the circular economy, and I am just going to ask James to give a brief definition of that as well. And then I know, Cameron, you've got some really good example of how this works as well.
I'm just here to explain different concepts.
You can say more about it than that as well, but I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Happy to do it. So the current economy that we currently exist in and have for the longest time was what we call a linear economy. So very much you have the creation of raw materials, manufacturing process to create certain products, and then use of the products and then end of life emissions. One side to the other, that's it. Everything gets made, everything gets thrown away. What we need to do in order to hit our net zero goals, hit our general sustainability, ESG goal as a global society, it works much more with a circular economy where we are trying to reuse and recycle and try and keep a closed loop as much as possible. Always need to put things like coffee and milk into that loop, but the things that those coffee and milk products come packaged in, how they are used, the waste of the products, and try and use as much as quickly possible. That is the ideal scenario. So we are wasting as little as possible, which puts less pressure on the environment, on the natural resources, limited resources we have, and also the amount of waste that we are putting in the atmosphere or putting out waste. So that, in essence, is the circular economy, which we are aspirationally trying to achieve and remain to be trying to get closer and closer towards. All it means is just trying to make your upstream as efficient and as compact as possible, and trying to reduce the amount of waste and transport. That, in essence,
yeah. Yes, yeah. I mean, I am going to move to Cameron in a moment to talk about the milk bottles, but do you have any other examples of anyone you've worked with that have made changes and demonstrate this?
I mean, we try and see it all the time, and we come very much from a scope 1, 2, and 3 vision of it, but like basically it all comes down to upstream and downstream of balance. Like I struggle to pick out a specific member. We're basically putting every single one of our members in that direction, goodness included. Basically, it all comes down to making sure you're really good business to really work with what's nowadays.
Right. And Cameron, we have already talked a bit about the milk bottles, but can you just say a bit more about how this works, but at an occupier level and building level? The whole thing. Yeah.
So again, we'll deliver our glass milk bottles, and they'll be consumed by very different businesses and whole households. We'll collect them, bring them back to the site, wash them, they be reused, and we'll get at least 20 reuses out of them, but it all depends sometimes on the customer. So no goodness are particularly good with reusing glass bottles, and so we find that with goodness we're getting an awful lot more uses per glass bottle, and that, as I mentioned earlier, it just reduces single-use plastics, reduces all of that wastage with regards to any bottle use as well.
And what can we actually do to get more use out of a bottle? What determines if it's 20 uses or potentially a lot more?
Sometimes it depends on the condition of the bottle. So it all depends on how it's treated outside. I mean, we deliver it and we receive it and it's smashed, or even just a tiny chip in the bottle, and if you're really capable of reuse, the last thing we want is glass fragments and
no one wants that.
So yeah, it's making sure that customers sort of make sure that they do return. It's also I just developed a bit of a waste culture to reduce wastage on site, so to make sure that returns are in the best conditions possible.
Lovely. And that brings us nice. Oh, did you want to say something?
Ironically, it's the environment in which you use the products. I think so. We're all used to seeing them at home and in houses. But I think until we started in London, they just weren't used in offices that frequently.
Yeah.
You don't typically have kids or cats in offices, so the bottles last longer. The kids are not playing football in the garden and kicking them over, and cats are not knocking them over when they're left out for milkmen to collect. So it's just understanding that they do really work in an office. We deliver about 1.5 million bottles a year now. So conservatively, we're avoiding using about 370,000 plastic containers. And again, we're in Port Leadenhall today.
Yeah.
I think we're just over half of the milk we deliver into Port Leadenhall comes in glass at the moment. So again, we've still got some work to do. But for the plastic we deliver here, we stack them all on top of each other, put them up against the building, then would be twice as high, which is, again, it just shows you the extent of the change that we can make with the small differences.
Brilliant. So bringing us nicely onto food waste. So we waste a huge amount of food in the household as well as in workplaces. And actually, there's the average household wastes about £1,000 worth of food a year. And as an individual, it's about £250. That goes across many, many areas. And we hate seeing food waste as well. And we obviously want to stop wastage across the supply chain, but we really, really hate seeing it at the end where we use it ourselves. There's lots of ways that we can reduce it that we probably don't know about. And milk is one of the most wasted products in the country, especially dairy milk. This will also happen with plant-based milk because once you open it, not everyone uses it or they don't know you can stick it in the freezer before you go away on holiday. That's exactly what I do. But I want to talk to Cameron about some of the other ways we can reduce milk or what you're doing to help in that area.
Yeah, so the industry standard is waste around 1% of the milk that they produced. Currently, we're operating about 0.45%, so we're well below the sort of industry standard. And that's all driven from our production teams, our continuous improvement teams, working with staff and helping to develop staff to make sure that we operate as efficiently as possible. Because we just ideally we want 0% wastage, but sometimes it's just unavoidable. But by developing this culture across the site and through continuous improvement, we found that we're continuously improving our no wastage and hopefully we want to get even further below 1.5%.
Fantastic. And I know, Chris, you were mentioning to me before about how you manage Fridays when it comes to milk as well in workplaces.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about some of that?
More than just Fridays. So effectively, we build trust with our customers, and once they let us manage the process, then we can just help them to eliminate the wastage, pretty much all of the wastage as well. So small little things like in August, we reduce orders by 20% because everyone's enjoying the sun, especially in the UK, obviously. At Christmas, we deliver once a week rather than 3 times per week. If there's a bank holiday, a lot of our competitors just simply move orders onto the following day. But we don't, we just reduce orders again automatically so you haven't got more than you're likely to consume. And again, stats are, I'm an accountant, as we said earlier, but I always like backing up with stats. And again, we had the most recent good example that we've got is that a co-working group with 20 offices in London, we said that we would save them at least 10% wastage, which arguably a bit arrogant. And after the first couple of months, it was looking like we'd overshot it. But when we were tracking it in the first month, it was a 2% reduction. The second month for 4%. And then by month 3, we got to 14%. And that's 20 big offices in London. I mean, it's just all about just, as I say, getting the trust in and letting people use us and our expertise so they can worry about nicking the lights on and moving desks around or whatever stuff it takes to manage buildings rather than running out of milk, effectively. Yeah,
fantastic. And Harry, you must have examples from within the enterprises you run about how you reduce food waste as well.
Well, I mean, immediately, obviously, Goodness, we started partnering with them on milk, and they've eliminated milk waste for us as well, which is a real big challenge. Coffee shops, we use a lot more milk than I think most places. So no, it's genuinely a testament to the work that Goodness is doing. It genuinely transformed our waste. We've had to stop worrying about wasting milk completely. It's exciting. Obviously, we've got our shops and we do waste food in the shops, which is very tricky to predict. It's very stochastic how many pastry or so will say. So there's a lot of schemes we kind of engage with. The 2 litre go is the classic one. You come collect it. And that's a good example of where that gets people coming into a shop for the first time. You've not seen them before, and they might start finding products in the future. It's almost like a sampling process. So there's a few kind of fun schemes, but I think it's, honestly, I think it's a really good example of most of partnering with people who know what they're doing. Because I'd say for a decade of running lost coffee shelves, I was always wasting milk until I found that solution. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And there's lots of things we can do on the consumer level as well. I always bang on about the freezer, even putting vegetables and fruit that you're not using, in the freezer if it's going to go off, and sticking it in a soup or a smoothie or something like that. And then there's apps like Olio. Has anyone used the Olio app? Some people even put like an aubergine on there, and they say, come and collect the aubergine if you want it. And it's also a great way of building community as well. So you can share more than just food on there, but little things like that can just really help, and also save you money as well. When we reduce our food waste, we're also saving money.
I should say that.
Yeah. Everyone wants to save money at the moment. I'm going to move on to how you choose your suppliers, who you work with, and what procurement teams can be doing to help decisions have better ESG outcomes. And I want to talk to James and Chris mostly about this, but obviously if there's any other thoughts, please let us know.
Yeah, I said much of mine, so sure. Okay. When procurement teams have really great relationships with their suppliers, really great contact details, we do a lot of supply chain programs specifically around ESG for one of our members. And when we talk to procurement team, they've got really great relationships. They know exactly who the key account manager is. They know who the sustainability manager is at the company, what they've done about their practices. That's just by far the most, that sets us up for success so often, because you bring to have those frank conversations with being responsible for their relationships with them. And even more importantly, if you don't understand, for example, they're working with goodness, and they know that they in turn have a relationship with their suppliers, it just means that you can instantly have those conversations, because so much of that I'll go back to the just trying to find the right person to talk to. So first things first, just like make sure you're listening to the right person and having those records as well kept as possible. And then beyond then, as I said at the beginning, just going to where they are, just understanding a bit about their business, what challenges they're facing, what regulatory pressures they're under, what cost pressures they're under, and then coming together and resolve them. That's why I call that to try and reduce your scope of emissions.
And are there places that businesses can share this sort of information? We've started working with this supplier and we've had great outcomes, and if someone isn't having to go through that whole process all over again.
Yeah, I think there are great places you can, share ideas that come together and say, I worked with this amazing supplier and what's this amazing company with their company. But ultimately, just you can do a lot of that good work yourself. Create those case studies, on your company website, highlight some of your suppliers you're really happy with, and then just promote them as much as possible. Because if these suppliers meet you where you are and start creating carbon footprints and start improving their own business, then you've got to reward them as the client is there. So give them better payment terms, give them spotlights, give them case studies, highlight the good work that they're doing, because then we can help each other.
Fantastic. Yeah, please.
So I experience this a lot, because obviously we're a local coffee shop. We've got a few coffee shops, and our shop around the corner is an award-winning shop. It's won the best coffee shop award recently. It's a really iconic coffee shop. People come out of their office, they come in, they buy coffee, they say, I wouldn't get this in our office. And we say, well, we've got a trusted partner, goodness, if we could go through them, you get your office, it'd be so easy, we'll be happy. And then they'll kind of come back to us with a procurement process that might be a little bit out of date, might be from, a long time ago. And they'll go through the procurement process with us. And we'll be consistently saying, this is going to go wrong. This is not the best way to get what you want. Please trust us on this. And I think this is something I see with a lot of local charities like mine, the few projects. I know that Tap Social is going in here in the building. I saw a time for that, and I love it as well. They've had a lot of similar experiences. They grew really well to entertainers as well, so you see your project. And it's a classic thing where you do say, this is the way, and then they've got a kind of existing legacy procurement process, and they don't trust the people who kind of know how to get the coffee into the office. I think that's been like a real pound change for us, is when we can sphere people when they do this stuff.
I hope you don't understand, but there was a period where you were worrying so much about cash flow. This is the problems like this, that you just forgot about what you were doing.
Yeah, our receivables cost 100 days. So as a local charity, we cost 100 days, where that was our average payment term with the client, which is, I'll be honest, expensive. Like big companies, listed companies, we're stocking our coffee, and we're a small local charity, they'd be expecting us to basically become a bank. And that's kind of what Good Yourself has sold, which is really important.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's great that you can also help some of those businesses improve their procurement processes for the next social enterprise that they might work with as well. So
if I could say as well, it is about just sharing knowledge, sharing ideas and expertise. So we have annual supplier days. We had our last one on Tuesday this week. It's been a particularly rough week and challenging week. That's why. using things like awards, telling your suppliers if they're doing well, why they're doing well,
Yeah.
and then encouraging others to follow suit. We had one supplier who we actually delisted for a while. So they were a local distillery. I won't go into too much detail, but they were canning their products in Cornwall and then sending them up to somewhere near Durham for their 3PL providers to store them and then distribute them. And we just said, absolutely not. We're not going to work with you. We've got options that we can use and we help them. So we encourage them to just use a canner and a distributor out of Leicester. And then once they've done that and made that change to reduce their food miles, then we will go through the onboarding process again. So I think it is being firm and just working with your suppliers and your supply chain to get the best out of them and bring them along with you.
Yeah, and so create a community within that supply chain. Yeah, fantastic. Anything else to add on that?
I mean, for us, it's working with our farmers. It's hugely important for our emissions. So, as James mentioned earlier, Scope 3 is huge for us. About 95% of our emissions, and of that 95%, about 89% is from our farmers. So it's hugely important that we work closely with them. And over the years, we've been doing sort of updated column audits for our farmers. And initially, it can be quite a difficult thing to get across. We have to do a lot of education, workshops, explaining why we're relatively important. And eventually, over time, we've managed to build a percentage of our farmers that have carbon audits done over the years. And eventually it got to the point where it just had to be a multitude crowd. So by building that culture and that knowledge across our suppliers, we've been able to make sure that all our Scope 3 emissions have been included and we can help drive those freaking stuff.
So quite a bit of upfront work, and then that's paid off and is integrated now, which is brilliant to hear. If you had to start again as a new business, new social enterprise, and you didn't, knowing everything you know now, but you're starting again from the beginning, what is one of the first things that you would do when it comes to ESG or sustainability? You can say two if you want, one or two of those first things. Whoever wants it. Go on, Harry.
I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of what's interesting is at the moment, I'm at age of self-marking our own homework is over. Like the idea of just say, oh yeah, we're doing this, and I was going to check it. And there's a big change for the FCA to start making nominated providers more credentials. And if you can't use one of those, then you can't make claims. And I think that's important. So I'm upset basically be FCA compliant.
Oh, interesting. Go on, Chris.
Just to be fair with customers, to be honest. So we had in our earlier days, we were a little bit like Amazon where we wanted to do everything next day. No fanning, no organisation. And yeah, it led to more vehicles on the road.
Right.
Always did shit. So just being upfront, honest, and plan your supply chain, you can make a difference. So that's the idea for me.
Good.
I'm tempted to say measure your carbon emissions as much as possible, but actually the step before that is actually understand the scope of your business and who you're working with and what you spend money on and where, like, your community around you. Because once you do that, you can then be in a really good position to understand, like, am I working with the right people that I need to get this where I want to go, with are aligned with my journey. Like, before you go start measuring your emissions, start creating new strategies or start creating the messaging around your business, like, understand who you're working with and who you are, who black can exploits, it's hard to, what goals you can set yourself, because if you're working with the provider who isn't aligned with you, you're going to really struggle. So just understand the people around you and make business if you want.
Fantastic. Cameron?
Yeah, I'd agree with James. I think it's hard to see, and you'll just go through machines because from a purity perspective. So actually looking who it is that you're looking to do business with, and understanding where it is an issue will come from, and that tells you the way you can drive it. Like to improve this.
Fantastic. If anyone's off starting a business or social enterprise, not telling your employer, then please take this advice. I want to talk a little bit about the future and future trends. So in the next 3, anyone can kick off.
I think, yeah. So when I started with Panama just over 3 years ago, a lot of the businesses who came to us to get certified for their carbon footprints were saying, we want to understand our scope 1, 2, and 3 and start net zero before we want to get ahead of the competition. It was great. It's great reason to get that commercial edge. The reason why businesses are now reaching out to us now is because they're, instead of saying we want to get ahead, they're saying we've fallen behind because there's other businesses that have starting to win business from us.
and we need to play catch up. And I think in another 3 years' time, we're basically going to get to a point where you won't be able to work with clients if you cannot demonstrate you're working with really great providers, really great suppliers, and you have really savory in line. I think the biggest example of this is the NHS Edinburgh assessment, which some of you might be aware of. If you want to work with the NHS, basically there's a rolling set of targets that over the next couple of years, but by 2030, you will definitively not be able to bid on any NHS work or supply the NHS if you don't have a net zero target footprint. So it's just going to become business as usual in the next few years. I didn't quite realize that you don't act now and get the shit in order. Like they're going to.
Yeah, good. You've heard. Get in order, right?
I think it's going to just be collaboration when it comes to the city. So I think there's still lots of easy, quick wins that we're not doing. So the amount of suppliers that are coming to a building like this is staggering. And I sort of truly understand why. So choose your supplier, pick them well, and then benefit from the synergies. Create an environment, but also if you're going to create rates and ways of working and schedules with suppliers, then it can increase safety. It's going to reduce your costs. Yeah. So it works, but we're still not there yet, I don't think.
Hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years.
Be able to work with fewer buildings and the ones that are more meaningful. That's the next step.
Very quickly, so I've got to, because I think one that I've seen, I'm vaguely aware that a lot of pressure groups and the part of government are basically looking for a landmark case to get a big company with the Economic Crime Corporate Transparency Act. They're looking to catch someone that can be a landmark case that says, look, here you go, it's time's up. You've got to what we're actually saying you're doing. So if anyone here is running one of those big companies, they'll get caught doing that. For instance, if you're running a big oil company and happen to be in the room now, still fine. So that's probably what I think a lot of organizations are underestimating, is how seriously this is starting to get taken in the flat rooms. And then I think it's nature of biodiversity is really on the ground factor in terms of prioritization. I'm looking at that building over there because we had a meeting there the other day where the person who's doing a bit of a redevelopment was kind of moaning about how they have to buy all of these bio boxes to put on the roof when they redevelop it now. And that's becoming a big thing, is now there's a huge need for biodiversity when doing any sort of development. So I think that's going to be a big spike, and there's going to be some modification of that, which will be interesting.
That is also interesting because even having more plants in the office can actually help people's mental health. It's called biophilia as well. So various advantages there. Cameron?
I'd probably say a legislation perspective. Just as an example, over the last year, there have been extended producer responsibility legislation that's come in. I won't go too much into it, but essentially it means that large producers are responsible for the waste that they put into the UK market. And from this legislation, it's all about driving reduced wastage, making sure you're using more recyclable materials. And this has come at a particularly large expense to the business, but it's a lot of work. And I wouldn't be surprised if over the next few years we see more legislation coming in from the government where businesses are going to need to be required to do more over the years.
And then just on my side, in terms of what I think will come in even more is, again, has anyone ever felt that something like a well-being or personal health initiative has been a bit of a tick box ever in an organisation? And I think we're going to see more of that change as well, and linked to all of these sorts of issues. There's a stat from Brigham Young University that in organisations where people rarely ate fruit and vegetables, they were 93% more likely to report a loss in productivity. And, we do know that we're also in a health crisis, and our health has to align with the environment as well. And, some of the products that you're serving yourself have lots of fibre in them, which is something we are quite deficient in as a country. And I'm going to get a bit of audience participation here, but does anyone know how many people out of 100 are deficient in fibre, which, by the way, feeds our good gut bacteria, is linked to our immunity, our gut health, can help reduce the risk of multiple lifestyle diseases? How many people out of 100 are not getting enough fibre? You can shout out. Go on.
70.
70? Any other guesses?
40.
40? I see. So it's less than 10. Less than 10 people out of 100 are getting enough fibre. And, this is where we start to link things up. We also know that shifting more towards some more plant protein as well is also good for the environment, good for our health. And, this is also something that we're looking at more together in terms of how can we get people eating more food that's tasty, easy to build into the day, but also helps their health and the environment at the same time.
Yeah, it's a big fish for us next year. So we've got lots of good products that we're just not selling our customers how to eat them effectively and easily in the office.
Yeah. And Paul and Chris have also committed to doing a session with me, a one-to-one session to help with their own health and building in more of these foods.
I think it's going to be sessions, plural.
Sessions, plural. There we go.
More so Paul than me.
Clearly. So you're all the accountability now because you heard it here. So ask Paul in 6 months to make sure. We've had 12 months to make sure that it's actually been done. I'm going to do one more quickfire question before opening up to the audience. But if every business or person, actually, we can do it as either every business or person in this room committed to changing one thing tomorrow, what would have either a huge impact or the greatest impact? Anyone can start off on.
Yeah, I mean, this is my bias. Obviously, in the ESG, I'm the social part of that chain. And obviously, if I'm going to save the charity, I'd love for everyone try and learn a bit of sign language. Just give them very useful. If you meet someone deaf at some point, and you went out to them, just try and learn a bit of sign language. You'll really open your eyes a bit to get how important and how fun small stuff can be for individuals.
Oh, I love that. And we often don't have enough time for sort of hobbies. It's something else, a side project to build in. James?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, for like a business and maybe specifically the sustainability manager, but people managing sustainability, talk to the people around you, like talk to other sustainability managers from other organizations and talk to your suppliers, because so much of the time you're just stuck in the data and you're like, oh, this supplier is 0.2% of my sort of 3, blah, blah, blah. Like, put a name and a face to that number, put a name and a face to that part of your emissions, because that's the only way you can actually build that relationship and help them achieve stuff. So it's just
in community, so important. Cameron?
Again, a bit of bias. I've talked about it a lot, but switching to reusable glass bottles, just reducing that simply with plastic and just eliminating what's in bottles.
Yeah, great.
No, I think it's just being aware of your impacts.
Yeah.
So whether it is overconsumption, packaging, have a 5-minute walk to the local shop each day rather than doing a big weekly shop to make sure you're not wasting products and small changes, but just be aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 5-minute walk to the local shops can also help reduce the risk of death from lifestyle diseases, taking us right back to the beginning there.
Our shop start by the little way.
Do you know what?
Yeah, we actually give out free coffee if you order a cyanide.
No.
So just learn how to order coffee.
It's full of fibre as well, I think.
It's vibrant air, actually.
We are sorted, mate. That is your task from today and tomorrow. You're going to walk 5 minutes either to the shop or to get some coffee at Curator's Coffee. Brilliant. That's solved all the problems. Speaking, can we get a round of applause actually for the panel? And I'm going to open up to any questions. Anyone? Yes.
I've got a question. Part of my role is to help kind of influence other people's behaviors and change cultures within the building itself. Do you have any kind of tips or tricks or things that you've thought would work to help change the culture and behavior of the people who maybe aren't as passionate about these types of subjects as we are as individuals? Have you ever managed to kind of influence people, and how did that look?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you had your 3 core tenets of goodness earlier. Ours is measure, engage, communicate, and in the engagement path, it's so critical to find your champions in the business and your allies, because the chances are, like, if you try and do this by yourself, you're not going to have the impact that you want. But actually, if you find those champions, and you can probably put out an email and just say, like, who would be interested in working with me? And chances are you get like 7, 8, 9 like responses. Find those allies, and then you can teach the teacher, basically. You can empower them to have those conversations. They can empower others. So if you have that cascading effect, you'll be able to have a lot more influence rather than just you trying to speak to every single employee individually. So that's what I would, and one of those can be on the, in the leadership team or the board level, then even better. Yeah.
I think that side's very important, that it's got to be across different levels. And we've also got to see our leaders demonstrate the behaviours that will make everyone else come along as well, which doesn't always happen.
And also consistency. Teaching the rest of doing what we do. Rather than just do this, but you're not doing this. You're buying into it, you forget about it. So constant messages.
I suppose that's where we've got to look at organised.
It's also to bring stats to life as well. So Paul mentioned earlier 44 tonnes of cardboard. What does that mean? No one knows. But when you say that it's the equivalent of 3.5 London buses, then it brings it to life and you can understand then what the impacts of your actions are. So that was my advice.
And it's a similar thing on nutrition and what people are eating. If they understand you're not just doing this because it's going to help someone else or it's going to help the environment, it might actually make you more alert at the weekends when you're also looking to have fun. There's an advantage there. It might allow you to enjoy your holiday more because you've got more energy. Those sorts of advantages are going to really help people as well.
And that's the problem I dealt with a lot with my organisation, getting to understand why we do certain things. And whenever someone new comes in, they want to put their own mark on things. And because you've already decided things, sometimes you're like, oh no, this is how we do it. They feel disheartened. They're disheartened by that because it feels like you're just sort of not engaging with it as a collaborative process. I do think onboarding in any context is the key, and making it short, digestible, clarity. Like if there's an onboarding video perhaps, and one that perhaps you could work with partners here to trade that talks about briefly, places that stock our coffee. Sometimes we send them little videos about what we do, and that gets that buy-in. So I think that'd be a collaborative onboarding process would be really powerful.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, you've seen obviously quite a lot of talk about reusable bottles, and you did touch on plant-based milks. Plant-based milks all come in cartons. Has there been any vibe or communication with brass fillers that might reduce the waste for plant-based milk?
Yeah, it's definitely, there are a couple of options that are available on the market already that we're testing. So I think, and lots of providers that we've got options with. What we're very keen, particularly in workplaces, so Oto, for example, use exactly the same bottles for their oat milk that we'll use for dairy milk, which is great if you're in a household. But from an allergen perspective, if you mix those in a fridge in a workplace, it's not the best, and the risks are obviously enhanced. So yeah, on our radar, but not quite there yet. I guess linked to everything that we've been saying as well, Tetra Pak pricing is going through the roof as well. So it is there, the initiative there to do the right thing, to avoid using it. It will make it financially worth your while as well. So it's a target for us for next year.
So hopefully we'll see that sped up then, the
hopefully,
glass bottles. Yeah, great. Yeah.
There's a historical, maybe conceptual misconception, I don't know, about if you factor in sustainability into your products, the price tag on is likely to go up because of related operational costs or just supply. Touching on the idea that we're getting to the stage in the coming years where people are going to need green certifications even just to operate as a business, if we think that's the growing trend. Do you think that's likely to cause the price rise in basically everything? Or do you think it's a misconception and actually that's not quite true about sustainable products?
I think for me, it's a misconception. It's about choosing your partner as well. So obviously local sourcing, for example, if you are getting products from closer to home, then all of the freight charges are minimized and reduced. So certainly it's a big criteria for us. So it's not just about being good on the good, there's a greener scale. It's got to come at the right price point as well. Otherwise, we just won't sell it. It's that simple. So yeah, no, I don't think, I think it's a misconception.
James, did you want to say something?
Just that we always, whenever we ask this question, because we work with our 700 businesses and they are all trying to create either better, more green services or green products. And we always say to them, like, please don't try and compete on the price, because then it's just a race to the bottom and the cheapest product will always win, and the cheapest product will never seem to be the worst. Try and compete on quality, your green credentials and the suppliers that you work with, and tell that story. I think measuring is communicate. It's that last step, communicate. Make sure that all of the good work you're doing is communicated as effectively as possible, so that if someone does see your product and it is 15p more expensive, at least they know what the 15p is for. And if you can back it up with good evidence, then that should really tell the consumer everything they need to know about why it is slightly more expensive, because of all the good work going on behind the scenes.
Great. And Harry and Cameron, both with businesses where you might be looking at prices rising or going down, do you have some examples of where that is true and where absolutely it's not been, and actually you've managed to really cut costs?
I'm the wrong person to ask. So my product had to be so competitive on pricing. Like, we had to really find solutions to get down pricing. Coffee is a bizarrely tricky product on that.
Yeah.
So I feel like, my coffee shops is what I'm thinking of primarily. People come in and the idea of paying £4 for a coffee is expensive, and you're like, well, you pay a living wage and tick, tick, tick. So there is a great cost for me running my businesses on the street in terms of coffee that goes into the offices. And we have to be quite competitive on our margins on that. And I think the margins have collapsed in our industry recently. So we're down to like the bone at the moment. So I think that'll get easier in my category in the near future.
Yeah, product pricing is not my forte. But we were in conversations with our sort of finance team all around the energy that we buy in, and when I found out that we were going to be switching to sort of 100% renewable energy brought in, I initially sort of assumed it was going to come at an increased cost, but we'll actually see no change to our bills. So whilst it certainly gives off that impression. There are certain examples out there where you can find green measures that may not come out of an increased cost, and so that's all down to the fuel side of things.
Excellent. And obviously you've got an example where you actually saved money as well.
Yeah, right. I think I should probably cut out my answer by saying that with us, regardless of the products, we always do the border or the baseline due diligence before it comes. So using milk as an example, if you don't care about animal welfare, for example, then there are cheap alternatives out there, and ones that are going to be cutting corners. If they don't care about the cows, then they're not going to care about much else as well. So with us, any product that comes through the door, we've already done the base level of due diligence that you'd expect. And I think when you get to that level, and you know that people are operating as they should, then being slightly greener is easy to achieve at the same price point. So that's my answer. Yeah, that's good. That was obvious. It should have been earlier.
Yeah, thank you.
Coffee's a particularly challenging one as well, so we can have free stand another 2 hours, so we can just about that at the moment if we need to.
Great. Over at the coffee shop and a 5-minute walk and drinking some of your coffee. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can stop for some more networking and talking. And obviously, you're all here to answer more questions and more personal questions that anyone might have. Same with myself and Paul. Thank you again.
Just a very quick sales plug for me while everyone's still here and engaged. Our ESG report comes out today, which has got lots of useful tips about things we've been doing over the last year or so, but things that you can incorporate into your own businesses and operations. To get a copy hot off the press, email esg@goodnus.com. And that's goodness with an NUS at the end, not the correct spelling. Thank you so much for everyone coming today. Thank you so much again for the panel. And again, Vanessa, I really appreciate you coming in. Hope everyone's found it useful. A massive thank you again to 40 Leadenhall. And please come and have a drink, mingle. We've got some prime time beers here. Thanks for prime time. If anyone wants a glass or two of wine again, I'll be out there with the glasses of wine. Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.